Penguin Random House Audio presents The Princess Beard, The Tales of Pell by Delilah S. Dawson and Kevin Hearn. Read for you by Luke Daniels. 1. Atop an ivory tower crammed perilously close with fine books. Call me Ishmael, but do not call me late to brunch, for I am the mouthpiece of the god Pellinus, and it is a tiring job. And I am an old elf, in possession of dodgy knees and a distaste for mimosas. I was once a carefree elfling sprig, enjoying the heady pleasures of the morning wood, but then I received the call. It was as if the double-headed god spoke directly to me with both mouths. Itchy. The god boomed, a male and female tone merging. Yes, hello, I said, because that is called conversation. You are to be the next snarchivist, the god continued. Oh, really? Yes, really. Ah. And then there was a long and awkward pause, and I suppose Pellinus felt as confused about the whole thing as I did, because every time I tried to speak, so did they. I really think Ishmael. Shut up. And thus I did shut up, because Pellinus is a capricious god, and spontaneous combustion is real. Ishmael, you are to go to the Siren Snarkapelago. There you will find a tower, and within you will find a very dead skeleton. Aren't all skeletons dead? The god paused. Sure, if you say so. You see, the last snarchivist is but a ghost, and you will replace her. As a ghost? No, Ishmael, as the next snarchivist. I took a moment to consider it. Forgive me, O Pellinus, but that does not sound like a good job offer, said I. It is not an offer, the god boomed, both voices ripe with fury. It is a holy order. This is the call. Not like a regular call, but the call with a capital C. Ah, I said again, because I was quite determined to become a door-to-door sales elf. Are the benefits good? Yes, the god said. Super good. And with that, I told King Gloss Tangle of my sacred duty, was roundly laughed out of the morning wood, and found the fastest ship to the Siren Snarkapelago. There, just as Pellinus promised, I found a tower. Within that tower I found a corpse, which was very dead, as Pellinus had also promised. I also found a fleet of helpful monks dedicated to my care. The benefits were indeed good. The first thing I did was to ask the monks to remove the skeleton, as well as the ruined rug beneath it. The next thing I did was to request a new rug, plus a citrus salad, a journal, and a quill. For Pellinus had just begun to speak to me, and I had much to record. Now, I have a purpose, and that purpose is driven by schedule. Oh? Yes? What? Pellinus has just informed me that proper fantasy books are always written in third-person past tense, and so I will switch. Are you ready? Because you see, I will no longer speak as I, Ishmael, but will begin telling a different story. About other people. Mostly. Still, when you see the snarchivist, that's me. I mean, him. I mean, I am him. Bother. The Snarkivist, a most wise and clever fellow, lived according to the schedule given him by the even wiser and cleverer god, Pellinus. The schedule was simple but sacrosanct. The schedule at this point was as much of a biological imperative for the Snarkivist as eating, sleeping, or visiting the boom-boom room. And after waking and blatting a sonorous blort on the tower boghorn, and quaffing 3 cups of coffee and a rasher of boar bacon, it was time for him to write, without fail, and generally without variation. For uncounted years he had written tirelessly about the same subject. A vital subject, to be sure, for it was the secret source of joy throughout Pell. But he'd begun to wonder in recent months about whether he was accomplishing anything, since he'd filled floors of bookshelves with volumes on the subject, but no one ever came to read them. What was the point of possessing such knowledge if it was never shared? He often read aloud to his shining numeric construct, Reginald the affirmation gecko. But that didn't count. Reginald never retained anything he heard. He only spouted one of his many thousands of affirmations whenever the Snarkivist required a response, and when lacking the proper affirmation, congratulated the Snarkivist on continuing to exist.
"Your wit is a shining beacon of hope in a dark world,"
the gecko might say, or simply,
"Wow! Nice elbows, pal."
The location of his tower might have had something to do with the poor distribution of his work, the Snarkivist mused. Perched on the eastern precipice of an island in the Snarkipelago, his home was hardly convenient to the populace of Pell, and he was not entirely sure they knew of his existence. He was supplied and fortified by the Snark Druid and a handful of monkish snackalites who looked after gardens of produce and herds of livestock. But they never asked to read his tomes. They sat around their campfire at night and listened to the Snark Druid tell them stories and sing them bawdy ballads about the early, earthier days, when Pellinus had been but a young and gawky god. But whenever the Snarkivist tried to join them and sing songs of his knowledge, they fell silent and looked at their shoes, and soon made excuses to go back to their holy hovels. Well, no matter. He'd always known that following the call would isolate him socially as well as geographically. He had his work and his gecko, and that would have to be enough. The Snarkivist had just finished another volume yesterday and shelved it lovingly on the 10th floor anteroom. This morning he would start a new book, putting quill to paper and letting the knowledge of years and the enlightenment of Pellinus pour out of him. But after his first cup of coffee, he didn't feel like frying up the usual rasher of boar bacon. Instead, he wanted something different. He wanted oatmeal, with fresh fruit, fiber by Pellinus, and vitamins. He rummaged in his pantry, searching for the oats, already feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. He was about to deviate from the schedule. Indeed, he already had. Whether this would prove to be the beginning of something remarkably fine or remarkably tragic, he did not know. But the prospect of variety was like a siren's call, irresistible and alluring. Soon enough he sat before a bowl of oats, topped with raspberries, blueberries, slivered almonds, and brown sugar. And when he sampled his first spoonful, oh, what splendid magnificence! An explosion of taste with a muted subtext of circulatory health benefits. "Reginald," he declared, "this oatmeal is delicious." The gold and silver affirmation gecko blinked and cocked his head, tiny gears turning audibly in his skull as he considered a reply.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?